right. Hello, everybody, and hello, Herbert. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Joanna. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, and once again, I want to thank you for giving a webinar back in April just for all Taiwanese teachers. That's very special for us. Thank you also for agreeing to share with us or kind of like remind the teachers some of their Q&A, their questions, which I think most of them you did answer in real time during the webinar, but I think it would be a good reminder, especially in a kind of like a back to school session, for us to review some of your great thoughts. For me, that was very insightful.
Thank you. Well, welcome, dear colleagues in Taiwan, to this Q&A session. I would like to thank you very, very much for your interesting questions. Just to make this clear, I'm talking here from my study in my home in Austria. So Joanna I've prepared a PowerPoint. Joanna's got the PowerPoint, and she's going to share the PowerPoint now. And I will have to ask you, Joanna, to switch to the next slides whenever it's needed. As I've said, thanks so much for your excellent questions. In fact, Joanna, if we go to the next slide, we can see I've prepared a bunch of flowers for you all for thinking deeply and coming up with such interesting questions. Well, actually, here are the questions that we didn't manage to answer in the live webinar. Joanna, please go to the next slide. Let's have a look at question number 4. What can we do when we have students? Some of them are very confident, others are shy, reluctant to take risks. We know that all successful language learners are risk takers. That's a very important observation. If somebody is too shy and they don't dare to speak because they are scared of making mistakes, then of course that is an impediment for their language learning, okay? That's the case more with teenagers sometimes than with young learners. But of course, also in a young learner's classroom, you have kids that are more outspoken, that are more courageous, that are more risk takers, while others are a bit shyer, okay? So some learners can be very touchy, especially teenagers. So we have to be cautious. We have to be cautious how we correct mistakes. So if the teacher, let's assume the learner makes a mistake, something that they should know by now, and if the teacher goes, "Oh no," of course, this is not very supportive. So let's not be judgmental or disappointed when they make mistakes. They don't make mistakes in order to hurt us. They make mistakes because learning and mistakes are two things that belong together. If we are not sensitive when correcting mistakes, that will lead to silence in the classroom. And what I mean is not silence in terms of students, for example, reading out texts aloud. I mean silence when it comes to speaking, silence when it comes to saying what they want to say, silence when it comes to asking and answering questions, silence when it comes to saying meaningful and real, true things, okay? So a number of suggestions here. Okay. So when you teach shy and reluctant learners, don't correct too much. Be patient. Be understanding. nod your head to signal to them that you understand what they're saying. Scaffold their production. Sometimes I just whisper the correct structure or the correct word, and I get them to repeat it. Whispering it means the teacher is helpful. The teacher is not judgmental. The teacher is not punishing me for getting it wrong, but the teacher supports me. Correct discreetly. When a learner says, "I'm scaring of snakes," we can say, "You're scared of snakes. Me too. I'm really scared of snakes." So you send out the signal to them. There was something a little bit wrong. The correct thing would be to say, "I'm scared of snakes." Okay. But you don't say to them, "That's wrong." You say, "You're scared of snakes. Me too. I'm scared of snakes." So you use your own example to give them a correct model of the sentence. Of course, once learners speak more confidently, we do want to correct them, okay? You might just correct, or you might actually ask them to think about a sentence they have produced, okay? So you just indicate to them that something is wrong. So a learner says, "My sister is 30 years old." You could say 13 or 30. And you could write both numbers on the board, okay? And sometimes, of course, it can be useful to just point out the grammatical concept rather than the form. So a learner says, "And then we going to the park." And you say, past simple. Yes, we went to the park, etc., etc. So sometimes, we just say a word, or in this case, a grammatical concept, past simple, and learners will remember. When we do discussions or role play activities in our classes, please let's not interrupt too often. Let's give delayed feedback. Let's give feedback at the end of the lesson. Somebody said, "Where's better at football, Tom or Ken?" Is that correct? What do you think? And they will say, "No, it's who is better at football, Tom or Ken." Okay. Do correct, absolutely. Wrong forms when you are carrying out a drill, okay? So when you do a grammar drill, you're drilling the present perfect for completion, and a learner says, "I'm doing my homework." Of course, then you might want to correct. And again, you could just correct or say somebody else, "Can you help?" Or you say, "That's not quite correct. Think about your sentence." And they can also help each other, and learners can correct each other's sentence. So in other words, to summarize this, we need to know when we correct. I wouldn't correct too much with shy learners during role play activities, during discussions, and we need to know how we correct. And sometimes it's better to do delayed correction later on. Sometimes, rather than correcting, the correction coming from us, it's better to get learners to think about it by saying, "There's something wrong, think about it." And we also said sometimes we just whisper and give them the correct forms. Okay, question?